Great.
All right. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, 7 o'clock. And would you please stand for the pledge? Libby, will you lead us?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Missy, call the roll.
Yep, Robert.
Here.
Becky. Here. Tanya. Here. Libby. Here. Fritz.
There we have a quorum. Any discussion on the last minutes that were presented to us? Hearing none, we get a motion.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right. Moving on to new business. Council to hold first reading for rezone of 410 South Oak Street from residential 3.5 to commercial, community CC on 0.17 acres. Public hearing scheduled for Plan Commission meeting on March the 30th. Adam?
All right, good evening. Is this plugged in?
Yeah, that's
Okay, good. Good evening. For the record, I'm Adam Zaklakowski, the Planning and Building Director for the town. Case before you tonight is just first reading for proposed rezone. In fact, Councilman Fence actually owns the property. It's at 410 South Oak, as you said. He's looking to take it from this residential zoning to commercial. And the reason being is he would like to develop the old Denver's auto repair shop into a restaurant. And he'd like to have some additional parking on the rear of that lot. There is a house on it. The house may come down at some point if he needs additional parking, or that house could be converted into some sort of commercial use. And what I think we'll do is, as it moves on to the Plan Commission, we'll probably put some conditions on if that house were to develop in a commercial use, what types of uses would be allowed and what wouldn't be. And Councilman Fence was amenable to that, so we'll be able to work that out. But the other important thing to note is that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. So the comprehensive plan, even from 2014, projected kind of a number of properties deep off of the south side of Broadway as having good potential for commercial. So, so with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to address those.
What kind of things are from in that CC?
Sure. So CC is, I would say it's kind of a medium density commercial district. So it could be anything from personal services to retail to office. Really anything, technically I think a gas station might be allowed, things of that nature. So we just want to restrict out uses that wouldn't fit.
Right.
I think even retail, because there are some residential houses around there, would be a very odd fit. So what Councilman Fence was talking about is, maybe it could be a law office someday or an accountant's office. And from a planning perspective, that'd probably be a perfect use, acceptable use. So we'd want to probably restrict out retail, obviously gas stations and things of that nature.
Any questions for Adam? No?
Thank you.
This would be 3A.
correct.
Hearing no other questions or conversations, entertain a motion. This will be first reading only.
So how do we read it? How do we do a motion?
Well, we can go, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion for first reading, ordinance number 2021-3A, the change of zoning classification for 410 South Oak Street as presented.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So next steps on that, would you tell us a little bit about next steps, Adam?
Sure. So from here, it'll head to the Plan Commission at their March 30th meeting. And that's when the formal public hearing will be held. Councilman Fence had sent out the letters based on the certified mailing list that we provided. We will be posting a sign on the property. We'll put an ad in the newspaper, so it'll cover all the bases on the public hearing requirements. And from there, at that meeting, the Plan Commission will go into a little bit more depth on what the land use impacts are, where the impacts of the neighbors, what concerns the neighbors have. And then from there, they'll make a recommendation, and then it will come back to all of you for a final decision as a second reading. So that would probably be at the first or second meeting in April when it would come back. And then he'll also have to get site plan approval from the Plan Commission. That's not going to happen at this next meeting. But in order to develop the parking lot on that property and on the Denver's property, the whole thing, he'll have to get, I think that'll probably come in maybe April's Plan Commission meeting. So kind of working sequentially on the different steps that are needed.
Any other questions for Adam? All right. Thank you, sir. All right, unfinished business, non-traditional vehicle ordinance. Who's gonna take that up, Joe or Tanya or Alex?
I can give you just a little update. You've got the latest version in front of you. Tanya had sent out after the last meeting that she had discovered that actually DNR does not sticker the vehicles anymore. It runs through BMV. And so I made that change in the ordinance to state that they would have to, if applicable, be stickered and registered with the BMV. So that's the only change in this document from the last conversation that you all had at the last meeting.
Looks like we still need to determine the height of ground clearance.
Yeah, which, as we talked to Chief Bratton about that and what makes sense to make sure that we're not in that go-kart category.
Okay. Anything to add, any questions? This would be a first reading, correct?
Yeah, there was no first reading at the last meeting, so it would still just be the first reading and then, for conversation, further amendments and, second reading down the way.
Do we need the ground clearance number in here to move forward?
It'd be nice, I mean, if Chief Bratton has
If we're opposed anyway.
we could write that in.
Right. I looked at a lot of them. The Gators sit lower than say the Rangers or the Razors or the Rhinos or anything like that. I think the seat height was somewhere around 26 to 28 inches for a Gator.
Okay.
I can pull the actual dimensions real quick if you want.
And we just really need that before second reading. though.
Yeah,
We've got
right.
time to
Yeah,
research
you
that.
can-
Okay.
The comments you made as far as seat height, this is written.
This is for ground clearance, so.
Okay.
So we
Well,
won't-
ground clearance and seat height are two different things.
Yep.
So, ground clearance could be, most cars are 6 to 7 inches and trucks are usually 9 to 11.
Right, so
Um,
maybe seat height makes more sense.
Yeah. Because you could get a go-kart on bigger wheels that has the ground clearance,
Right.
but they're still sitting real low in the seat. I'd rather see a seat height. That way, at least that person can see up above traffic and traffic can see them also.
Okay.
Or bumper height, minimum bumper height, something like that.
I can work with Chief Bratton on that. It sounds like change it from ground clearance to minimum seat height. So between now and second reading and drop that into what he's comfortable with and what he's seen in other communities or in other ordinances.
Questions, comments from the council? While you guys are considering anything from the public. Come on up. State your name, please, into the microphone.
Paul Cook, 719 North Crystal Drive. Now, I was listening to the discussion at the last one about the snowmobiles. And I'm not quite sure, for one thing, I really feel like when we have a proposed ordinance, it should be published along with the agenda so that the public can take a look at those and see just what, it's supposed to be transparency. And it would be nice if we could see that. Now, I've looked at and I really have a problem with the snowmobiles. And I've looked at what I think is the county ordinance, and it talks about needing permission from the homeowner to be, like, how are you going to get your snowmobile from your driveway out to somewhere where you have permission to ride? I just don't understand how you do that. Because if the streets are plowed, then are you going up through people's yards to get there? I just don't know. I just think it needs to be published so people can look at it. I know I don't want a snowmobile riding through my yard, tearing up my yard.
Thank you, Paul. Anybody have any responses for this question, or?
Well, the ordinance isn't for them to ride on your private property, so
Pardon?
the ordinance isn't for them to ride on your private property, so
All right, so how
that
do you,
shouldn't happen,
if
but
the streets are plowed, how do you get in there?
you can still ride on the street. It's not, it's usually in past, when I've rode it out of town, it's been on the edge of the street where there is still some snow. And the rate of speed that you can even do that without snow is very slow. So it's even under the 20 mile an hour that we put on this. So you can't travel at a high rate of speed on asphalt anyway. So I'm, it's just like any other ordinance though. There might be people out there that's gonna drive through your yard. Obviously you can't, it's like somebody on a moped or a bicycle or anything else. It just really depends. Most people that know the ordinance wouldn't do that anyway. Even when we were kids and we rode snowmobiles, we rode them down the alleys out of town. We didn't ride through people's property. We took the alleys to the main roads and rode them out to the country. So we didn't get into people's, and I was 12 years old. So not to say that I know there are kids out there that, but we even have an age limit on this too. So you couldn't even be that young to ride one here. But when we were young, we rode them. And actually, it was 10 years old when I rode my first sled. So, and I rode it here in town out to Wilson's and Rayford's property, and that's where we rode at. But it's not necessary to get on somebody's property in most cases if you know what you're doing. But people will do it probably. But I don't think that in the situation like you're in out in Winstone, when you're in a subdivision like that, I lived in Timber Ridge. And we did take our snowmobiles out once, but we went straight down New York Street into Rayford's Field. So there was we were never on anybody's property but our own and just on the street. So.
Well, you're a responsible operator. Other people may.
There's a lot of people that aren't responsible that drive cars too, so.
Pat's gonna deal with it.
Yeah, I understand.
So how do we
I
want
really feel like proposed ordinances should be published.
I don't have a problem with that, and I agree with that totally.
I thought we had talked about it at the last meeting, but it wasn't written the way we wanted to publish it to the public just yet. He was
Yeah,
still
okay.
working on
I
it.
mean,
If you wanted that first reading.
Yeah.
If Alex
should be.
and the chief get those details worked out on height clearance, then we should be able to post that for the second reading. For the
Yeah.
next council meeting. So it could be out there.
So how do we want to proceed? This has been discussed at a couple meetings now. Do we want to proceed with a first reading? Do we want to wait for full council? You were kind of the sponsor of this. What do you?
I mean,
what would you like to
we
do?
can if we want. I mean, I'm just waiting for public comment, more people to step up, and as more people, Paul's been the first one that's come in here and talk. So, and I think it's good to put this out where people can see it too, but we need to have the first reading, I think, in order to do that, so,
You want to proceed with the first
yeah,
reading?
that's fine.
Okay. So this would be ordinance number 2021-3B.
Correct.
3A was the last one. We just did, okay. So, no other comments? Who would like, I'll entertain a motion on this. I'll actually, before we do that, I didn't make a comment myself. My comments, or my thoughts on this haven't really changed. I thought about it, heard from a few other folks, regarding this. I just believe that these things belong in a rural environment. I told you my concerns at the last meeting, but specifically my own property. We are in town. I know we're close to being out of town, right? But we are in town. And we have snowmobiles go through our property on our yard, right? Which, like you said, there's always gonna be some folks. I understand that. I share some of Paul's concerns. The way this is written, you know, if I were, you know, in town somewhere, I don't even know how I would get out of town because they aren't allowed to be ridden with 20 mile per hour on any road greater than 20 miles per hour, right? Or across it. The speeds of them concern me in town. Again, I have no problem with them in a rural setting, right? But the thoughts of them in town where there's just potential for more accidents, I like the clear line that is, or are they of age? Are they on a road that's below 20 miles per hour? If you just see one, we're not supposed to be in town limits. It makes it easier for our law enforcement officers. It's already going to be an issue for our law enforcement officers if we do allow it. I just think that I just have many concerns with it. So this isn't something that I'm going to be able to be on board with.
Are you talking about the snowmobiles or the UTVs?
I'm talking about both. More so the snowmobiles, but I see both. Any other comments or?
You guys know how I feel about it. I've not been on board with this from the get-go. And Tanya has a strong argument that I understand, but I just don't feel like that just because the county changed it, though the county didn't speak to anyone who manages these vehicles, they just changed it without really thoughtful consideration, I feel.
I'm sure they put a lot of consideration into it.
Well, I
They
feel
don't
like
change
you need to,
ordinances just without.
well, then you should talk to the experts, and I don't feel like the people who are in the field managing it every day of their life, who, to me, told me they, you know, the conservation officers said that they didn't agree with this. They think that this is, keep the recreation vehicles in the recreational space where it's safer.
And you can do the same thing with golf carts, but we have golf carts here.
Golf carts, I feel like they're different. I don't feel like they have the speed. I don't feel like that they will flip like a UTV. I don't know. I'm more okay with the UTV than I am the snowmobiles, just because of, I'm not saying, I believe you would do fine. You're a responsible person.
Yeah.
But I mean, living near the park and seeing the parks get torn up and people disrespect everyone's property.
Snowmobiles don't tear up yards. If you have see, this is a misconception. So I'm just trying to tell you exactly what happens, because most people wouldn't get in the yard if there wasn't snow on the ground. You're not going to see snowmobiles coming through here unless there's a major amount of snow anyway.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, if anybody from outside the community, there's not that many people that even own them inside the community. Mine aren't even running, they haven't been for 4 years. So, I mean, it's not like I'm gonna hop on mine and ride all over town. I mean, I never did as a kid, and I wouldn't do it now. And most people wouldn't either.
And I trust that.
So it's
that you
just
you were raised more responsibly than some people.
It's a vehicle just like anything else. So you don't treat it any different than that. I mean, it's not, and if it does go through your yard, it doesn't tear your yard up. There's nothing on it to tear it up unless they run over your bushes or your landscape and you know, by that time they're somewhere where they definitely shouldn't be if they've done all that. So, you know, I mean, it's, the difference is being educated and having experience with the vehicle versus not knowing anything about it or not having that experience. And that's why I want to be able to tell people that don't have the experience with them what it's like to ride them, because it's dangerous to be in town, really. It's only a path, and anywhere you trail ride, any state you go to, you don't spend a lot of time riding around town.
Sure.
It's an access to get to the areas where the trails are or anything else. So we don't have trails around here. Trails are in northern Indiana, but they're not around here. So it's, it's a total different kind of riding experience than when you're in town. And I've never really seen any town that I've ever been in where somebody acts like an idiot on a snowmobile. I see motorcycles do it every day, but I have never personally seen somebody do that in an atmosphere where there's a lot of vehicles around. So that's why I'm so passionate about it, because it's just an educational thing. You have to be educated about the vehicle before you can make accusations like that. And same thing with the UTVs, just like you said about grass vehicles. Well, they're on the grass every day, but we got them on the road here. So what's the difference?
Well, I just feel like they're recreational vehicles and that it can just cause harm. And they can be.
So can a bicycle, so can a skateboard or a scooter or a.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not any
So
different.
walking, yes, I understand.
I'm just
all of
saying,
that.
that's just,
But if it
Yeah.
gets so few snows, I don't even know why it's an issue.
it's really not, that's why
Yeah.
I'm trying to say, it's really not. I mean, it's not like, we don't get snow here like we used to when we were kids. So what we do get's a little dab. I probably wouldn't even have my sled on the 6 inches we had if it was running, because it's just not as fun. So,
So we'll proceed with this, we still want to proceed with the.
I say let's just wait until he gets, don't you think we should wait until he gets on? Can we not put it out there for the public until we have the first reading on it?
That makes sense to me, but I don't care if it goes out to the public the way it is.
we
but-
can put it out there like it is now. It probably should have been out here when we first changed it.
Is it on the town's website, Joe?
Not yet, because we just got the.
Well, from
Okay.
the first reading, the reason why I'm okay if we wait till the first reading, and I don't care either way, but the first reading, anything can change between the first and the second reading.
Right.
That's really the point that's the opportunity for the public to come in and.
So what happens if we vote on it tonight and the first reading doesn't go through? Can we do that again? Or is it dead in the water?
It's dead. You can bring it back up at the next meeting and
It's dead for tonight, but we can bring it back up for the next meeting?
sure.
You have to be reintroduced with a new number, right?
Yeah.
I say let's wait.
That's right.
But you
Are
guys.
you okay with that, Tanya?
Yeah,
Just
I'm
wait,
good. I mean,
wait
it's,
and-
it's not like this is a
Yeah. I mean,
hugely
if he's gonna put
pressing
the
issue.
height in here, we can get it
Okay.
out in the town's website, see what
Yeah.
kind of comments we get. I mean,
Yeah.
there's not much use in putting it in the
Well,
newspaper
there's not a
because
rush.
so many people don't get the newspaper.
So this won't be 3B, so you'll scratch that. So it'll turn into a different number when we bring that back. So I'll make a motion, we table this to the next meeting.
Okay.
I'll second it. If we get, let's get it on the website then.
All in
Joe?
favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So Joe, you'll see that gets put on put on the website.
You want this version on there?
That's fine.
But
Well, we gotta get.
I mean, if you can
the,
give me an update on the next couple of days.
Yeah, I will.
I got
Yes.
2 more weeks.
All right. All right, moving on to the town reports. Joe.
Just a couple quick items. The Main Street project obviously started. You can see they're giving me notifications. In fact, I stopped and talked to them today right before the meeting. They're closing sections of the streets just to put in a storm pipe. And this is all before their staging and their phasing sections begin. They don't know too soon, and they're not giving me the information too soon to put out on when that next road's gonna be closed, because just like tomorrow, they're planning on working at Stapp and Main Street, both intersections, probably trying to take care of the north intersection, north side first, leave Main open. But with the weather that they're predicting, they don't know, so we don't want to post that the road's gonna be closed until they know for sure what they're doing. So the minute that they send me that text and they follow up with an email, we get that out. So other than that, I would love to tell you the timing of everything, but it's very fluid,
As soon as you know those, you're putting it on Facebook for folks to see.
for sure.
That's probably the quickest way.
And then, Core was supposed to be working on some parking maps. Did they ever come in, got any off for you guys? I've reached out to them a couple times on that and I've not heard anything back. It's probably spring break for a lot of folks right now, but I would like to get that out. And I also asked them to put together a map for all the business owners showing what the total project's gonna look like. And I would like to see every business owner have a blown up version of what it's gonna be like right in front of their facility. So as people are going in and out, they can look, whether you put it in the window or just have it to share they can see what it's gonna look like right outside the door. We also had a drone fly it last week, and we're waiting on those photos to come back as well, so we can share those. We're gonna try to fly it at least every month or through each phase, because we want to have progress videos, and we stitch it all together at the end, and we can have from the beginning to the end, when it's all completed.
Did we ever get, I know that Terry had asked us all to look at the website, and I had some time to do that. I noticed a couple things. I didn't see a link to Core's website about this project. I know that was something that was mentioned.
No, Core's not putting it on their website, we're putting it on our website.
Okay.
So we've got it on our Facebook, and we're sending everybody to look at our.
On our website, is there a way to make that a little more prominent? You have to, if you just pull up our website, you maybe wouldn't know that it's that, you gotta scroll down to see it.
I don't think it's that far down.
Is there a way that it could be on that, or do we have the capability to add, something that would draw attention to, or have it at the top?
We'll work on that. I think it's not, first and foremost, when you open the page, it's not far down. The website that we have now is not easy to manipulate.
Okay.
Just like it's not easy for the customers or the homeowners to get on there and find things, it's also not easy for us to manipulate it. That's the reason why Terry sent you guys the sample of the one that she's looking at, to see if that's something you guys are on board with, if you like the layout and everything. And she's working on reconstructing some things and try to make it a little bit better.
There's several platforms in that now, so.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Anything else, Joe?
The last thing I've got is with the power outage we had on Monday, we had a few trees come down. The guys have been cleaning up some trees. We got a couple of nice mature maple trees. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to take out because we found out that they were rotten inside once the storm blew half of them over. It knocked our power out here at the town hall. It came back on, I'm thinking it's roughly 6:45 or so. I think that's close to when I got a text from you that the power was back on here. Our emails were all attached to, like, going through the server to the old system, and Nine Star came in, was able to get our internet working, our emails working the next day. So we've got email capability. Our server was zapped pretty good. They took it with them yesterday, and they've been working on it, and they've had to overnight some parts, and they're trying to get us up and running as quick as they can. My only concern, my biggest concern, I guess, is everything that we store on the server, Nine Star backs it up, so we should be able to reconfigure everything. My biggest concern is what everybody was working on that day when the power went out, because that wasn't backed up, and with the utility office, some of those things may have come into play there. So we're anxious to get that up and running again to see how it's affected. And it affects how we post payments as well.
So was it a surge or the outage that caused something to
I
happen
have
to the
no
server?
idea. The lights flickered several times before they went out, and they just went dead, so.
Must have been a surge.
It might have. So, yeah, we're limping right now. We're still operating. We can't access a lot of our files, but. Okay. That's all I've got.
That last, with the ice and snow, how that, I saw in the vouchers replenishment of our sand and salt and all that, so.
We're in good shape out there right now.
Good.
In fact, we're waiting, any time now, we should be getting the notification from the state to go ahead and pre-order for next year. They always want to know almost a year in advance, because they want to know how much all the communities that are working with them are going to order. That way, when they put out the bid, they get a better bid, because they have tonnage estimates.
That's the first reorder, wasn't it? We almost made it.
I'm sorry?
That was the first reorder, wasn't it? We almost made it on the supply we had out there.
I think we probably got exactly what we anticipated that we were gonna get.
Mhm.
And I think we can go over 20% of what we tell them that we estimate we're gonna need. After that, it may be at a higher rate, and if we're not guaranteed those tonnages of salt.
Any other questions for Joe?
How the signs coming?
The ones for Main Street, same ones, that's what, like I say, Ford's work on. They sent a proof of one the other day, and I commented back with the email on the other things that I wanted to see, and I've not heard anything back. So
Takes a long time, doesn't it?
it does. So I'll be reaching out to them again tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, Joe. I don't see Heath. Did Parks have anything to present? All right. Adam, back to you.
Nothing for me unless you have any questions.
Any questions for Adam? No? Missy?
Really don't have anything. I'm attending clerk treasurer school this week, so been doing that Monday, Tuesday, today, and tomorrow. It's 9 to 5 and learning a lot.
Good.
Yeah, so it's something to learn. So that's all I have unless you have something for me.
Missy, can you share as far as what you found out about the in-person meetings as far as?
Oh, sure. That was a subject that was covered today, was virtual meetings. And it appears that as of March 31st, there will no longer be virtual meetings allowed if there's a person that can't make it. And correct me, I don't know if you've heard this or not. If there's a person that can't make it, they can Zoom in. But I don't know, does it account for quorum or they can't vote, can they?
That's right.
Yeah, that's how I understood it too.
Okay.
So,
Good to
yeah.
know. All right.
Are they ending that just because the pandemic is better, or are they ending it completely forever?
Isn't there something in the works for like a bill that they're working on
Yes.
right now? Alex can go ahead.
Yeah, there will be some, more than likely, I mean, it's the legislative process, but there will likely be some changes in the law to allow for these types of
Okay.
situations in the future. Hopefully we don't have any more, but more than likely, we might see something like this again that warrants it. So, but the virtual meetings now are all based on the governor's executive orders that he started a year ago and has been extending. And the legislature wants to move away from that executive authority and take back control. That's the way the momentum is going now. But
Yeah.
we will know more in a couple weeks and report back.
Anything else for Missy? No? Chief?
I'll be quick. Just a few updates. Got all the applications in on our hiring process. We're doing PT test and the written test this weekend. For the LPRs, I have a final meeting tomorrow with NDOT and the vendor to set the final placement, and then they'll start getting put up. So that project's moving.
LPRs, for those that may not have.
License plate readers through Flock Public Safety, sorry. I attempted to schedule, in Indiana, you have a year from the time you become chief to go to chief school. It's kind of like clerk treasurer school at ILEA, but they have since canceled that until things kind of unrestrict some. So once they reopen that, I'll be scheduling myself to go to that. You'll see a voucher. We've ordered some AEDs. We still have money in our AED donation account. So that will not come out of the budget money. That was out of the donation account. So it's a large, not this, I don't think this one got processed for this run.
No.
Okay, so the next one, you'll see one for some AEDs. Currently we're too short because those other ones, they're hitting their lifespan. So I want to make sure we have one in every car. So other than that, I appreciate the street department. If you could pass that along to Brian. Or when the power outage went out, they got signs out. They helped block roads when we needed it. That was really helpful and appreciative because we were watching 3 lights with a couple officers and I'm calling people in and doing all that. So other than that, the monthly report's in your hands. If you have any questions, I'll entertain any questions or any comments you guys might have.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
How many of the license plate readers will you get, and where will they be placed?
Currently, we are looking at 5.
5, okay.
One north, south, east, west of town. I think the one basically on Broadway, east and west.
Okay.
Madison Street coming into town.
Mhm.
Fortville Pike at 234 coming north. And then the last one we placed, I've coordinated with Heath to get one in the park. The entrance of the big park. That way, if a sexual predator goes in the park, our officers will be alerted instantly that there's somebody in there that shouldn't be in there. Or if there's vandalism, we'll have a license plate that we can go through and read.
It's probably smart.
So the cost of the license plate reader is a lot less than the cost of the damage that's occurred so far this year. So we figured that's a good investment for the town's taxpayers' monies.
What kind of damage did they do out there? All I saw was tire tracks through.
That's all gonna have to be replanted. They've had 2 toilets broken. They've had it spray painted. They vandalized the shelter houses. I mean, it's been going on for years. Dog park, skate park, they flip stuff over, and, we're running on 1 2-man crews, so we can't assign somebody to park all the time. So I think a good investment would be in there to help save some taxpayer dollars in the Parks Department.
A lot of that's probably kids walking in.
It could be, and a lot of them probably teenagers or young adults driving in, so we can stop one and maybe they start getting the point. Word gets out, hopefully it'll be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Anybody else?
Depending on how your officer process goes now, depending on how many of those you end up having, when do you anticipate them being ready to go?
Depends on, we currently have 4 in the process that already have ILEA or are in the process of ILEA. So if we hire one of those, it'll be a quicker process. If the other candidates are better, basically, it could be hiring date probably May, mid-May, into May. And then by the time we get them trained on the road through FTO, it'll be first of the year, probably before they're on solo patrol.
Any of these you're hoping to bring on as reserves as well?
We are still working on getting some reserves. We have several applications for reserves right now that we're going to run in the same process.
Any other questions for Chief?
All right, thank you.
Alex?
The only thing I had, speaking of Zoom meetings, at the next meeting, I'll be on spring break, but I wanted to ask you if you'd prefer, I can Zoom in, I'm Zooming in for all sorts of meetings and hearings that week. So I could Zoom in, or if you prefer, I could have one of my colleagues be here in the flesh and blood. But thought I'd ask you your preference and I would set it up either way.
I'm fine with one of your colleagues. That's what we've done in the past.
You're on vacation.
You're on vacation.
It's never really vacation.
I would just say then before our next meeting, if you guys have anything regarding the ATVs, snowmobile, maybe we try to get those hashed out for the next meeting.
Okay, yeah, I'll be online, and like I said, I've got, I think, 6 or 7 hearings that I'm in that week, so the kids are older, they leave,
All right.
You know how it is. That's it, unless you have questions for me.
Anything for Alex? No? All right. Public comment. Come on up. State your name in the microphone.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jared Buell, and I live over off West 1000, 1636 West 1000. You may know it as Garden Street. My wife and I moved here about 2 years ago. We absolutely love it. We're raising our family over there. I have a young son. He's about 1.5 years old. But one thing that has started to occur, after about a year of living there, we started to notice the smell of plastic. And, I just didn't think much of it and just figured, probably a factory or something nearby. However, it continued to get worse and worse and worse. And I want to kind of preface, my statements by saying, I'm not here to, disrupt small business or by any means, but it's become a major concern. So I reached out several months ago, and I believe I may have spoke to one of you individuals and was told that it was actually coming from Thursday Pools over here. And I was given the owner's information. So, trying to be reasonable, I reached out to the owner and discussed with him and, let him know my concerns. And, he seemed very, obliging and, said, they have a thermal oxidizer and must be down and, so on and so forth, and let him know when it occurs. And so I did and let him know several times. And this has gone on for months now. So after about a dozen conversations and text messages and calls, I finally got to the point where, I wanted to take it to the next level, or at least find out what my options were. So I put in a comment or a complaint to the EPA, and they reached out and they said basically Thursday Pools has a Title V permit. So, I think we all know that what's legal and what's ethical are two different things. But legally, I was told that they can emit as much as they can possibly produce if they were to run that factory 24/7. The unfortunate part is my house is directly behind that factory. If you cross that field, that's where our house is. It's gotten to the point, and I'm not trying to seem dramatic by any means, but to where it's like nauseating, where we have headaches, and I would welcome anyone. I could exchange information. You could come to my home when this occurs, and you can smell it so strongly in our living room to where we've considered actually selling our house. So I reached out to Councilman Fentz, and he had told me that I could come in and state my comments here to you folks. And so that's what I'm here to do. Not really sure what options are for us, but I just wanted to bring this issue into light. And I'll leave it by, saying that, just by the high level research that I've done on the styrene type emissions that are coming from that factory. First of all, in 2018, they did about 40,000 pounds of emissions. And in 2019, they doubled it to 80,000 pounds. And if you're not aware, they just recently have expanded that business considerably. So they're only trending upwards in these emissions. And they are, VOCs are volatile organic compounds. They're carcinogenic, they kill people, they cause cancers and things of that nature. So I didn't want to assume it was just us, so I talked to a few neighbors and reached out to a couple of people in the community. It turns out that there are several people that have these concerns. Now, whether or not they've come and expressed them to you folks or not, I'm unaware, but I thought I might. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Misty, did you get his name and address?
Your last name, is it Jared?
Yeah,
Jared?
Jarrerd.
RR. What's your last name?
Diebel,
Can you spell it?
as in dog,
Mhm.
UEBEL.
You said B as in boy?
B as in boy.
EL?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
You notice that smell in certain times, is it all the time, or is it just,
Well,
the weather conditions are different, or is it what do you notice?
to answer your question, originally it might happen once and it might be a couple weeks and nothing, and then it's gotten to the point where it might be several days in a row. I've woken up to, the baby wakes you up and let the dogs out at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's been overwhelming. And I would say more so in the morning time, between kind of the witching hours and 6, 7, 8 a.m. I don't know. I assume if you folks live nearby, I'd have to guess that some of you may have noticed this as well, but I've even noticed it around the community, now that I've started to pay attention more. But it in the last several weeks has become, 2-3 days a week at least, but more so in the mornings.
I've noticed it over here a little bit. It's usually in the mornings, like you said, and it's when the air is real heavy. But yeah, I'll have a talk with Bill over there at the Thursday Pools and see if there's something going on and what they can do to help that.
So has he not got back to you at all?
He has, and first of all, it was, I have no idea, and we shut it down. I don't want you to have to experience that. Like I said, it's very accommodating. And I'd asked my neighbors, and they said that, well, that's the same kind of story they've always gotten. And then it was, well, the lines are frozen on the thermal oxidizer, and that's caused the issue. And then, the thermal oxidizer, it's malfunctioning now, or it can't handle the load, from what's being produced inside the factory. I've been told he's ordered a second thermal oxidizer, not by legal means, but just on his own, means. But it could be several months. But I can tell you it is very overbearing, and frankly, I'm concerned for the health of myself and my family, the people around us. Because if you're smelling that you're breathing that in. There's a plethora of studies that link those emissions to lung cancers, and I don't want my family, sitting in a pool that, every day. So.
Well, I appreciate you coming in. I appreciate you reaching out to our council president.
Mhm.
And I was just gonna mention that the two folks that could probably listen and maybe call up the owner and see what's going on are sitting right over there. So Joe, the town manager, just addressed that. And
Mhm.
you guys can exchange information if you want and he can follow up with you and see how that goes. I know the smell you're talking about. I've been in the plant before.
Mhm.
And I know that owner. And, you know, if there's something that can be done, I'm sure he would try to do it, but to your responses, it's still happening.
Mhm.
So, I think Joe and Adam over here can reach out and see, at least see what's going on there.
Sure.
All right?
Well, real quick, you said something about, you said you contacted IDEM,
Yes.
and what did they say?
IDEM said that they have a Title V permit, which the young man I spoke to basically explained it as that's pretty much the highest level of emissions permit that you can obtain.
Okay.
They said the way that they rate that is they take the assumption of if that factory was to run 24/7, its highest amount of possible output. But essentially what the gentleman told me is that obviously that's impossible, that they were going to be just continuously running 24/7 or nearly impossible. Regardless, that they're not going to reach that threshold. So he told me that, although it may not be the answer that I wanted, that they can totally and legally do so. Some of the other individuals in the community mentioned that Thursday Pools is actually the highest producer of toxic emissions in all of Hancock County this past year. And again, they doubled and continuing to grow. So I can only imagine that if I'm the first, or maybe not the first, you're going to probably hear more about this because there's plenty of homes all around that area.
Yeah.
It's right over here.
That smell and windstone pretty good too, so.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming in and speaking with us.
Yeah, I appreciate all of your time. Thank you.
Only thing I'll add to that, in case there's, the hundreds of folks watching from home, is that in the future, you're always more than welcome to come in and speak to the council. Always email us from our website. Each one of us is able to be reached by email on our website, or even contact, I know Joe and Adam are gonna love me, but contact Joe or Adam in these kinds of situations. They're very responsive. They listen. They'll find out if there's anything to be found out, I suppose, and report back to you. And the residents don't need to wait till our next round meeting to come in and speak to us. So some folks don't know that. They only think that they can come to the council, which they certainly are welcome to do that. But we have Joe and Adam over here that are more than welcome to help if they can't wait till the next council meeting. Or utilize those contact us buttons on the website too. All right, anything to add, guys?
Isn't there a committee for the business park over there that Ed's on?
They have a design control committee, that's more for the development.
Just for the development, not for anything else?
Thank you. No? All right. Okay, any other members from the public? Okay. Town council, Libby?
No, not really.
Nothing? Tanya?
Said enough.
No. Thank you. Nope. Only thing I have is that I mentioned it to you guys last meeting, that I went up, I wanted to test it first before I spoke to Chris up at Nuco Metals, dropping off cardboard. I had a whole trunk full and it fit perfectly in my trunk. And I got up there, they have, didn't cost me anything, went back there. There's some big blue dumpsters, just dumped it right in there and left. It was super easy. It has to be clean cardboard, no plastic, no styrofoam in there that comes with the packing material, cardboard only. And I think that that's a wonderful offer from Nuco.
They didn't know you were there?
The town of, somebody knew I was there.
And we pulled in and left.
Somebody knew I was there because at first I was told I needed to wait for the scales, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I don't know how much different it's going to weigh with the cardboard in my car. And anyway, there was a semi on the scales though, and we were waiting and waiting and waiting. And they finally said, you don't have to wait for that. Just go see. They directed me over to the blue. Once you knew where to go, and apparently I was creating a line behind me because the folks that already knew the routine, they were just like, come on, buddy, get out of the way. And so it was super smooth. So I wanted to try it out myself. I had a bunch. I will be calling back to the president of Nuco and letting them know I tried that and thank him for that. It's a great way for our Fortville residents that they've offered to take care of the cardboard needs. Sometimes we have too much of it that fit in the trash cans. We welcome up at Newco, no charge. So just wanted to pass that along. Becky, you have nothing?
I'm nothing.
All right, take a motion to approve and sign vouchers.
Make a motion to approve and sign vouchers.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And make a motion to adjourn at 7:50.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, thanks everybody for coming. Have a great evening.
Absolutely.
Hey, good.